Hey everyone, it's actually Jeb Bush, and welcome to another episode of SoRare Steals, where we take a look at the roster of every NBA team and try to find the undervalued player cards on SoRare. Whether we think that card is undervalued because of a potential trade, a possible injury, future load management, or anything else, it's a long season, and I think there are a lot of opportunity windows that we want to be ready for. Now, before we jump into the video, if you enjoy fantasy basketball or DFS but have not joined NBA SoRare, then go ahead and click this link right here or in the description below. By clicking on my affiliate link, you'll get 20 free cards that you can use for the common free contests. Additionally, if you really enjoy SoRare and you want to participate in the limited contests, maybe have a little more control over your roster by purchasing the players that you want. By creating an account with my link, once you purchase 5 limited cards on the live auction marketplace, you'll get a 6th one for free, but that's only if you use my link in the description below. Also, if you can make sure to hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel, it's something super easy you can do that really helps me out a lot and allows me to continue to grind and make this type of content as frequently as I do. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the SoRare Steals on the Denver Nuggets. All right, so we're here on SoRare Data, and I have the Denver Nuggets roster pulled up. And the first player that I have on my list is actually Jamal Murray. So this pick might be a bit of a surprise. Jamal Murray is the number 2 guy on the Nuggets, so him being picked up by people seems a little obvious. He's a little more expensive than a lot of the players we talk about. But I actually think Jamal Murray is kind of crazy underpriced right now, especially when he's playing with Jokic, who's going for like 230 to 250. Yeah, if we take a look at his games, we can see that Jamal Murray has been putting up 30s and has really only had one game where he's kind of popped off. And we can see, he's been injured for such a long time. He hasn't played in forever. So I get that there is some hesitation as to purchasing him or starting him when maybe he's not going to outperform his cap that much. And he's still kind of missing games as he works his way back into the rotation. However, with all that being said, before his injury, Jamal Murray was dropping 50 points a clip sometimes on elite defensive teams. But before his injury, Jamal Murray had taken just a massive step, and suddenly people were talking about him like he was one of the top players in the NBA. And yes, he might never return to that level of play he had before his injury, considering his injury was so serious. However, for $30, I feel like that's a risk worth taking. When people are spending $100 on a Darius Garland, $100 on a Davion Mitchell, $100 on a Zion who has had previous injury problems, I feel like Jamal Murray is such a sleeping giant in comparison. You're spending $30 on a player that has the potential later on in the season to drop multiple 60 plus fantasy games. If we look at his stats, he's going about 18, 4, and 5 with almost a steal per game. I think regardless of whether he returns close to form or not, these numbers go up. He's working his way back into the NBA after a very long hiatus. And I am just kind of absolutely shocked that his price is this low. I don't think it needs to be like $100. I don't think it's like that huge of a steal. But when I saw this price, I was a bit surprised. I would have thought it was closer to 50, 60 bucks. And, we have seen that in the past where at the beginning here, people were dropping 50 on Jamal Murray. And I think that's because there was a lot of excitement about his return to the NBA and the possible numbers he could put up. And people have just been impatient. And now we saw him going for $15, and still now you can get him for under 30. You could probably get him close to 20. So I just feel like Jamal Murray is such an insane steal right now. It might not pay off. You are taking a risk. This is not a player that's guaranteed return to stardom form. We have no guarantee that he'll ever be the same player he was before his very serious injury. We've seen the same thing with Klay Thompson, where it maybe Klay never returns back to old Klay. It might be the same thing with Jamal Murray. So there is a higher risk here. However, the reward is such a massive, massive payoff because everyone is going to want a Jamal Murray if he like starts really performing. I just feel like there are a lot of outs, a lot of opportunity windows where Jamal Murray goes up in price quite significantly or just becomes one of the better plays as an MVP in your lineup. Once again, this is me looking a lot further down the road. It's very possible that he never really returns to that old Jamal Murray. So yeah, I can't stress this enough. This is, I would say, a higher risk play. But, you're paying $30. You're not dropping 120 for him. Jamal Murray is easily the biggest steal on the Nuggets, in my opinion. I don't think it's even close. And by the time I post this video, I almost certainly would have bought one right now. Actually, you know what? Let's go and do that right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at the manager sales here. Jamal Murray, go to lowest priced, 31. And then let's take a look at the auctions just to make sure there's not a better deal here. All right, so this doesn't end in 2 hours. So I do think the best way to go about this is the manager sale. I'm curious what his rare also costs. Yeah, I'm not dropping that, but I am buying this Jamal Murray limited. And there we go. Number 450. Let's go ahead and take a look at my cards. Yeah. It's a high risk for sure. But I think this is a risk that could really pay off. So I'm down to roll the dice there. All right. So after that excitement, let's go ahead and take a look at the next player on my list. And that would be Bruce Brown. Now, for all my viewers who are familiar with Top Shot and my long history with Top Shot, Bruce Brown is obviously a bit of a meme with him being over minted and the overall hate that he got. So even for myself, it was took me a little bit to believe in Bruce Brown on the Nuggets, but I think he has more than proven that he is a great player for SoRare to have. And I mean, he's just playing well in general. So it's pretty incredible to see. I definitely played him in a couple DraftKings lineups, and he's done very well for me. So let's go ahead and take a look at some stats. As we can see, his caps all the way up to 27. It's just consistently been going up, and that's partly, because of players taking time off, load management, them kind of trying to slowly, gradually get Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. to full speed. So, there has been a lot of opportunity for Mr. Bruce Brown, and I don't know in the future if that opportunity necessarily continues. I do think there's a world where this minutes per game kind of goes down. So as a result, I'm not necessarily super hot on this price. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But let's finish the stats. He's averaging a little over 10 points per game, about 5 and 5, and a block and a steal per game, which is always nice to see for SoRare. Now, the two things going against Bruce Brown right now in terms of SoRare is this price seems a little bit high. We'll take a look at the price chart in a sec. And this cap seems a little bit high, because he's been performing so well for an extended period of time. I do think Bruce Brown is definitely not even close to someone you want to buy right now. I think we see this price go down and this cap go down in the semi-near future. But with that being said, I think he's a player you have to be watching. He should be on your watch list. I think he's playing super well. He fits into that system super well. He's shooting from three really well. And if we take a look at his pricing, we can see that while he hasn't had any crazy bumps, we can see just a little bit of verticality here and a little bit here, which just kind of shows the overall demand that he has been overperforming to the point where people are interested in scooping him up all at the same time. And I believe this second spike here might be because Jamal Murray and Jokic were sitting, so we knew that there were a lot of extra minutes to go around. He's going for almost $20 a piece. I personally don't think I could spend more than 10 on Bruce Brown. And like I said, I think there's a good chance that he gets a lot closer to 10 in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, as Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. start playing more minutes consistently. As they kind of figure out everyone's roles, I do think this minute per game goes down a bit for Bruce Brown along with his cap, but that's the time you want to buy. We know he'll probably be in the playoffs. We know there will be times where they're still going to continue to rest Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., and he'll have game weeks where he will be projecting super, super well. So I think Bruce Brown is definitely a good pick, and we can kind of take a look at his scores this year to kind of validate that. As you can see, like, absolutely insane. We'll start even just like looking at this year. Let's not even look at last year, which you can see he had some crazy ceiling games, even putting up a 60 almost a year ago. Like, this is great to see for that price. But he's still putting up 40, 44, 43, and a 53 that he just put up. If we take a look at this, he had 4 steals. He did have 6 turnovers, so this number could have been a lot higher if he wasn't turning over the ball so much. And like I said, he's been shooting pretty well from 3. He's a threat at rebounding, and here he even got a triple-double, which is pretty impressive to say the least. So yeah, I'm very high on Bruce Brown, not as high as Jamal Murray. While I immediately went and bought a Jamal Murray, I definitely am sitting back and waiting to buy a Bruce Brown. But he's pretty high on my overall list of players that I would be interested in adding to my SoRare roster. All right, the third player I have on my list is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Now, KCP, if we look at his numbers, is an interesting case where he's a bit cheaper than Bruce Brown. He's a lot closer to that $10 range, and he's averaging more minutes. While his stats aren't as good, I think that's always interesting to see. He's got a cap slightly lower as well at 24. He's averaging 12, 3, and 2 with over a steal per game, which is great to see. And if we take a look at his pricing, we can see a little bit of verticality here. I would imagine this correlates with Jamal and Jokic sitting out like we saw with Bruce Brown. But he's going for mostly over 10, but we can even see here some action a lot closer to 10, and before a lot of action under 10. Back here as well, too, because I think around here is where we saw a dip in general, but especially at the beginning, if we're seeing this, that's a good indicator that, you can probably get him for under 10, semi close to $5, which I think is a pretty solid pickup price for him. Now, KCP played on the Washington Wizards last year. He was signed to the Nuggets this year. And if we take a look at his scores, we can kind of see that so far with the Nuggets, he hasn't put up anything crazy. But if we look back at his time with the Wizards, he was dropping some 40 bombs and even a 50 back here. So that ceiling is there. And I think it really depends on, how many minutes he's getting, what his role is. He definitely has taken a lesser role by signing with the Nuggets because, he went from a team that's a bit of a dumpster fire and not even close to a playoff team to a team that is a potential championship like threat. So as a result, he's picked up a more restricted role in the sense that, he's there to shoot. He's not necessarily there to create his own shot and run the offense and all that. But once again, it's a long season. Injuries happen, load management. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., as we've said multiple times in this video, will be taking days off. I feel like Jokic will be too. They are not trying to get Jokic another MVP and run him ragged, or like last year where he had to play in order for them to make the playoffs. I think this team is looking to have a sustainable regular season and be ready for the playoffs to really make a push. As a result, I think there are ceiling games for KCP in his future. And he's already shown us that he's capable of hitting a pretty solid number. And like I said, he's cheaper than Bruce Brown, even though he kind of has that same potential as him. KCP is definitely on my list. He would be the third player I'm the most excited about. I don't know if you necessarily need to go pick him up right away, But maybe going in and throwing a low ball offer isn't the worst idea. To just take a stab and see if you can get him for a steal. I think he's a player that will have a decent amount of opportunity windows to either go up in price or be just a pretty solid play in your lineup. All right, so the last player we're going to look at is a player that I did not have on this list until very, very recently. Today is Thanksgiving to provide some context, and that player is Vladko Kankar. Now let's go ahead and start with the stats. We can see he has a cap of 5. He is averaging 2 and 1 and 0 basically. No blocks, no steals, but he's also only averaging 6 minutes per game. So we really don't have any idea what his ceiling ability is here. If we take a look at his price, unfortunately, we can see that he recently has pumped. As we can see, a pretty aggressive increase in offers, all the way up to $16. You can now get them for 6, and we're seeing these offers come in at like 8 still, but you can see that there's a lot of interest in Vladko here. And there are 2 reasons as to why we saw this very aggressive pump recently. And that is one, Jeff Green got injured and there is no timetable for his return. So obviously that creates opportunity for a lot more players. However, the big reason is what happened after that. And we can take a look at his scores to really see what we're talking about. As you can see, 16, 1, 0, -2, and then 41. He dropped a 41 their last game. This man had a cap of 5 and he dropped a 41. That is crazy. And if we take a look at this, we can see 19 points, 3 threes, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, 1 turnover, which is ideal, and 1 foul in 34 minutes. That is great production, especially coming from a player that is pretty near the bottom of the depth chart. Technically, he's 5th in line for the small forward position and is not on the depth chart for power forward. So I think that kind of shows you this out of nowhere game that I don't think anyone really predicted him having. I definitely would not advise that you necessarily purchase Vladko right now because we just saw that crazy pump. And I don't think he necessarily goes out and drops another 40, 50 bomb immediately. But I think he's a player that's worth picking up. Obviously, once his price goes down and the hype around it and the recency bias dies down a bit, because he's just shown he has the capability of a ceiling game, and Jokic is back, so he's not going to get tons of minutes again for a little bit, but he's got an incredibly low cap. There will be a time where Jokic probably takes a game or 2 off because of load management, and Vladko will get his time to shine again. And that seems like a hell of an opportunity window. This went up all the way to 16 in reaction to him playing. Just imagine what it would be people speculating before lineups locking. I think you have to get a Vladko Kankar, not in the near future, but talk about a dart throw that doesn't cost you much that could really, really do some damage. I would get a Vladko. Hopefully, you could get him closer to the $3-4 range. I don't think he dips all the way back down to 2. But yeah, definitely a must grab in a weird sort of way. Obviously, not at the level of a Jamal Murray where you're going to get a lot more usage for him, a lot more opportunities potentially to sell for a profit or throw him into lineups. But there almost for sure will be at least 1 or 2 times where Vladko will be an optimal play in a lineup. All right. So I think that's it for the Denver Nuggets. I think this was one of the more fun teams. I think there's a lot of really juicy steals that are available. And I think we could have looked at a couple more players that maybe weren't as exciting or as big of a steal, in my opinion, but still a potentially pretty decent deal. So I encourage you to come and look at the Denver Nuggets on your own and just see what the prices are for some of these players, and leave a comment what you found. Let me know if there's any players that you found on the Denver Nuggets that you think are an absolute steal, because I do think this is a team that a lot of people are kind of sleeping on in a weird sort of way, because I think a lot of people picked them to win the West, and they've started off a little slow, and Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are coming back slowly, as we've said. So I just think there's a lot of meat on this bone right now. But yeah, like I said, thanks for taking the time to watch the video. If you don't have an NBA SoRare account, make sure to use the link in the description below. Please make sure to leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment about what you think. And we'll see you guys next video when we take a look at the Detroit Pistons. Please clap.